All right, Matt. So the moment we've all been waiting for. Colby Covington, um, former interim champion, top
Yeah.
contender, welterweight division,
Yeah.
and bigot. So, Matt, we had a lot. We have a lot to unpack as far as Colby Covington is concerned. Now, let's just throw this out there, just so it's out of the way, and no one jumps in the comments, talking about we're hating or anything else stupid. He is without a doubt one of the best fighters in the world at 170 pounds. I would favor him to beat just about everybody but Kamaru Usman. Yeah, off the top of my head, Kamaru Usman is the only person that I'd favor against Colby Covington at this point. However, um, I can't say I was surprised, but man, pretty disgusting behavior in several aspects as far as his victory was concerned against Tyron Woodley last night, man. I'll throw the ball in your court to kind of start off this discussion. What was your initial reaction to hearing the post fight speech, to the post fight interview, to just and I guess it qualifies to say the general shtick that is Colby Covington.
Mhm. I will concur with you that Colby is absolutely one of the best fighters in the world right now, right? That goes without saying. You check out our other videos on this channel where we confirm that in the lead up. We said if Tyron didn't really show up, that Colby was going to run through him, right? Sticking to the X's and O's. Now, outside of that, all that being said, we know what type of a fighter is he inside of the cage. Outside of the cage, whole different story. He started this gimmick way back in the Damian Maia fight, doing the filthy animals in Brazil promo, so to speak. And this is an important thing to keep in mind. He started this because he came from doing stints in pro wrestling, right? He was going through promo school in a way with I believe it was it TNA, I believe, the wrestling promotion, whichever one it was. Anyways, he was doing pro wrestling, segments. He was out there. He was in the ring. So he brought that back to the real fighting arena. And he started this, I'm going to go super MAGA thing. And okay, cool. I guess you want to go that route for attention. That's fine. That's your prerogative. You want to go out there and be loud and bombastic. You want to support the MAGA train. There's a half the country that supports that. I would say, I don't know, to be on the generous side, 70 or to keep a conservative side, like 75% of the MMA base would support that side as well. I don't know, maybe more, maybe a lot higher. Who knows? On the low end, I think it's like 70%. Anyways. And that was like, I could accept that, right? If you're going to do that, okay, fine. I hate it, obviously, being a black man in America and dealing with the other side of the things going on here. But last night was a different level. Okay. The post fight thing with him and Kamaru, where, they were yelling back and forth. And then he was like, go back to your tents and your tribe or whatever have you. I don't have the exact quote pulled up, but that's, those were words that came out. Go back to your tribe in Africa. It's racist, super racist as hell, because that assumes that everybody in Africa lives in tribes and in huts, like it's just nothing but poverty and dirt and everything over there. The people that believe that have no idea what Africa actually looks like, to put it mildly, right? There's been times where Kamaru has even gone live on his Instagram or even on his Instagram story when he's in Africa, at a marina in Africa with skyscrapers around him. And he was like, I guess you guys didn't really realize I was in Africa right now. And I guarantee you a lot of these people that support the character that is a Colby Covington don't realize that either. A lot of development over there, to put it mildly, right? So he starts that thing with Kamaru, and then he goes on in the post-fight, on the dais with the media and continues. This is actual quotes here. Black Lives Matter is a complete sham. It's a joke. They're taking people that are complete terrorists. These are bad people. Tyron Woodley is a communist. He's a Marxist. He hates America. Tyron Woodley is a terrorist for speaking up for Black lives in this country, for saying that there should be racial equality, there shouldn't be racial injustice at the hands of police. We shouldn't be killing our Black people for minor crimes in the streets. A routine traffic stop results in the death of a Black person. Why? Why is that happening? And you're mad that he's speaking up about that? Yeah, because some of these protests have gotten out of hand. That's actually absolute facts. Some of them had turned into riots, but we've also figured out, if you've really been paying attention, that the people that have started that have been instigating things. They're not really there for the true message, right? There's so many different ways we can go through this, and I'm sure we'll break it down as we keep going. But I want to get your feedback right here. I thought what he said last night was a completely different level, and at least and how it relates to us as being Black people here in America, calling those that are standing up for Black people and the racial injustice in this country, calling us terrorists. What did you feel when you heard that?
Um, a lot of different things. But really, I might have said this earlier, but surprise wasn't one of them. You know, as we've gone deeper into this civil unrest, this it really something that I'm surprised didn't happen sooner. To see kind of racial tensions boil over to the point that they have right now. To have such a contentious election year, to have so many different things going on right now. Um, Leaning in toward that sort of marketing, if you decide to do it, okay, fine. Um, but you have to understand the consequences that come with it. Um, Now, it seemed to be before this fight actually took place, Kobe did seem kind of dialed back. He seemed rather mute compared to what he has been in the past. Like leading up to the Usman fight, was it was just over the top shit show. From my memory, and I was standing 20 feet away from him, if that, when he crashed the open workouts for UFC 235 with the bullhorn and on his MAGA hat. And I've been at an arena where he shows up to taunt someone, and and I believe I was at the arena when like Masvidal, Woodley, and I forget which other fighter were like trying to beat him up in the stands, and and security had to whisk him away. So he is someone who has leaned into this and instigating for quite some time, but he was so quiet leading up to this. I see what he did last night as an act of cowardice, because you were so down back until you got the win, and then you went full on worse than we had ever seen before. And especially at a time like this, to equate um, the desire that you and I, as Black men who have faced insurmountable odds and discrimination and all sorts of injustices that a lot of times we're not even necessarily aware of because they're institutional. Um, to to minimize our struggle, to minimize the struggle of our fathers, of our grandfathers, of those before that, is disgusting. To equate that to terrorism is an absolute insulting travesty. And then for the promotion to um, stand back idly and just let it happen is utterly, utterly repugnant. There's no excuse to allow what is really hate speech. Like, that is hate speech, to imply that people who are, and not even imply, to just outright say, people who simply want to live and not be shot down or discriminated against or attacked or treated any differently because their skin color are terrorists. You got to have quite a warped sense of thought there. And I'm sure I'll get into this topic many times. Got a podcast I'm doing tomorrow, and I know I'm going to run roughshod over this all over again. And happy to say it as many times as is necessary for people to hear and to listen. But in fact, come to think of it, you were the guest that week on my podcast on Unleash, where we talked about how we felt to see the George Floyd memorial on the broadcast.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And so the UFC put that image up there for what? Because the people that want to see justice for a man with a knee on his neck for 9 minutes and die on camera, that so the people want to see justice for that, they're terrorists and they're going to stand by and let this happen. They're going to stand by and promote someone who's saying this absolute nonsense. You're going to say that, and I'll say the same thing I said then too. Like, I gave that the side eye instantly because we know that Dana White was going to stand next to Donald Trump and beg everybody to vote for him. We know that there was still going to be this right wing energy um, that the UFC is just going to inject into the world. We knew that. So empty gestures don't mean anything to me. What means something to me is how they conduct themselves over last night. I'm angry, very angry. I simply want to live, make sure that I'm alive to raise my son, and I want my son to live in a world where I don't have to worry when he's old enough to go out the house by himself, worried about whether or not he's going to make it home just because he's a black kid.
yeah.
I don't think anything about that screams terrorist. And if it does scream terrorist, you have a firm journalistic middle finger. Fuck you with a broomstick. Um,
Facts.
I don't really think I need to say that in a polite way or in a quote unquote professional way. It's my life.
Yeah,
It
you
matters.
don't. Yeah, it absolutely does, and that's why I tweeted out what I tweeted out last night. Fuck Colby Covington for what he was saying last night. Like, I'm sorry if that is outside of the realm of journalistic integrity, but you know what also is outside of the realm of any sort of decency? That's blatant racism, and he was putting that on display last night. And I'm sorry that some people will point to, oh well, Kamaru was laughing it off. Well, Kamaru was on air getting paid on Disney. He kind of had to keep his emotions in check, right? I'm
Yeah.
sure if the
Tomorrow
cameras,
always
I'm
goes
sure if
off.
the cameras were off, there would have been a very different story right there.
Yeah.
So you can read between the lines, especially if you're someone sitting in our position with our skin color and the things that we've had to go through in this country. I mean, if it's a right place, right time, you're gonna get a very different reaction from people. Like I said, he was lucky he said that with the cameras on, however many miles apart they were.
Yeah.
Because we've actually seen Kamaru check Colby Covington
Multiple
backstage
times.
multiple times, and Colby just stands there and tries to pretend like it's not happening. Fast forward to when they actually fought, we saw Colby get his jaw broken.
Right.
So that's also one thing to keep in mind. But to bring it back to the things that happened here last night, when he was going on his rants about the terrorism thing and everything like that. And of course, Dana White comes out and he's asked, what are you going to do about this kind of thing? Should something be done? And Dana says something to the equivalent of, I have no issues with the leads up to the fight. We've never done anything in the UFC to stop people from expressing themselves how they want. Who's more free speech than us? Type thing, right? One glaring example when he said that immediately came to mind, and I had to go dig and find the article this morning, was when Andrei Arlovsky said a homophobic slur just last year.
Mm-hmm.
Just last year. And MMA Junkie got a quote from Dana, or not from Dana, but from the UFC, a quote unquote UFC official, quote, saying that they don't condone. What is the official quote is UFC or the organization does not condone disparaging comments regarding race, religion, and or sexual orientation. This is an ongoing priority for the organization, and there will be continued monitoring of these types of situations moving forward. There's been more examples of this as well. Like even guys like with Conor McGregor as well said some things that were just like, yeah, we're it's a priority, and we never hear from it again.
Right. I remember, if I'm not mistaken, was it was it Forrest Griffin at one point that said something about no, Matt Mitrione, sorry, Matt
Yeah.
Mitrione about Fallon Fox.
Hmm.
I remember that became an issue. The rape van joke from Miguel Torres. Um, so
Yeah.
when they want to punish something, they do.
But they really don't. That's the thing. They really don't. You know why they really don't care at the end of the day. And I can say that confidently because there's been too many examples of it where you say you're going to do something and nothing ever comes to fruition. So at the end of the day, you're going to let it fly. And I'm not sure if that is because they want to all of a sudden fall back on the, oh, these are independent contractors. We can't really control them that much. We don't want to make them seem like they're employees type thing. Like, no, you guys typed up a code of conduct,
Hmm.
a fighter code of conduct. You guys made that document. You guys put that document out there. Why has it never been upheld? Why?
No.
Is it because it's upheld when guys say things that your political interests align with? It's Colby doing what he did last night just because he gets on the phone with President Trump, all of a sudden it's all cool.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with being racist if you got the president on the line.
Oh, when the president's racist, it certainly helps.
Exactly.
So yeah, man. I think we've seen a clear slant. The UFC as an official organization, not even talking about Dana White as a non entity in the political world, or just stepping on stage at the RNC. We're not even talking about that, because he's free to do with his free time as he sees fit, or even the campaign rally that had Colby and Ali Abdelaziz getting along strangely enough, and Henry Cejudo and Justin Gaethje there and whatnot. Not even that. Like, the UFC has actually put out straight up propaganda in favor of President Trump.
Facts.
So yeah, and they've used him to further build the brand. Keep in mind, right? I believe it was the first card after the pandemic started, the first card in Jacksonville, where they had the address from Trump before the main card began. Thankfully, I forgot to put the charger cord into my computer, and right when his face popped up on the screen, um, computer died, so I missed it. So I lucked out there.
Yeah.
But you get the idea. So um, and also let's also keep in mind too, how much it benefits the UFC as an organization to kiss up to Donald Trump at this point. There's a reason why Leslie Smith's decision about the labor union laws, the contractor versus employee laws, were kind of went away when she had a favorable decision 2 weeks, and 2 weeks after the Trump and Colby meeting in the White House kind of goes away. There's a reason why the Ali Act is sitting there collecting dust in Congress right now. It behooves the UFC to stay riding with someone who is anti-union, with someone who um, allows corporations to pretty much do whatever they see fit. Um, so there is some incentive. It's just a shame that that incentive comes at the cost of racism that they are implicitly siding with. If you're just going to allow this to take place on your platform,
Mhm.
you are putting your seal of approval on it. So be
Yeah.
careful.
Yeah. And along that, you mentioned the propaganda, the unprompted propaganda of the love for Donald Trump that just showed up. And every time that gets mentioned or gets questioned by media to Dana White, he always likes to bring up, oh, well, that's my good friend. I'm going to support my friend. I have friends from back in the day that were really good friends. And it turns out when they grew up, they were racist as hell. And I don't talk to them anymore. I cut them off. Like, just because you guys are business partners or whatever have you, if one of my friends in business turns out to be a racist asshole, I'm cutting them off. I'm not talking to him anymore. I'm moving on because I don't want to be associated with that. So the fact that Dana is still cool with all that, or he just doesn't really realize it, which is more so, a possibility. I mean, you got to move on. You got to move on. Like, why are you attaching yourself to that? I mean, I get it that you understand that that is your base. Like most of the UFC fans, judging by social media interactions, are very, very right wing individuals. And I know the comment section is going to be on fire.
Oh yeah. Oh,
But hey,
I'm gonna get lit up, and I don't give a fuck.
yeah, I
Um,
don't care either. But it's one of those things, man. Like you don't have to always hitch yourself to the wagon of your friends. If your friends start doing foul shit, it's time to leave that friend behind. And one thing that's like you said, like you're pissed off about this, man. I'm as pissed off. I've been pissed about this all last night, all day today, because there are a very small number of African American journalists that cover MMA. And when I say cover MMA, I'm not talking about like local journalists that show up when the fights are in town. I'm talking about guys that actually travel to events when they're not necessarily in their city that consistently cover MMA. I'm
and
talking about guys.
bring out content.
Yes,
Very
yes,
few.
very few. And I mean, I know that there's more that stick online and that write articles and put out content, podcasts, whatever have you. But I'm talking about guys that actually show up to events, get credentials. There's maybe 10 of us,
Mm.
maybe 10 of us. We got 20% of the 20% of the demographic right here talking to you right now. It's a very large number.
There was one time I guested on your old show, the Slip and Dip podcast, and me, you, Kendrick, I think Karen Bryant was a guest, and
Yep.
Dean Thomas. And it's like, wow, that's 75% of the black people in MMA on one program. So
Exactly.
yeah, they actually, and then reminded too, when we first met, the very first time we met, we were the only two black guys at UFC 214
Exactly.
from the entire fight week. I think there was like one other guy who showed up on fight night.
Mhm.
Um,
Local
and
newspaper
we
guy,
were,
I believe.
yep, we were the only two who were there the entire fight week and were dedicated mixed martial arts journalists.
Yes.
So yeah, goes to show you. I mean, 214 was a massive card, which actually at the time I believe was like the best representation of black athletes on a UFC card. You had Jones versus Cormier at the top, and you had Woodley in the co-main event. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And it goes to like just that small number, like this super small community of us that actually are dedicated to covering the sport, to be forced to cover an athlete who is out there being openly racist is a slap in the face to us when the promotion doesn't say anything. There's no apology. Like I'm giving them like another 24 hours to say something, some sort of statement publicly, or I'm lighting up all the email inboxes that I know. I'm going to light them up. I need an apology. There's not that many of us here. If you not saying something is saying that you accept racism and that you're promoting it. So unless if the UFC comes out with some sort of statement, some sort of apology, some sort of we're going to reprimand Colby Covington for things that he said, I'm going to be lighting up inboxes.
yeah, ain't nothing wrong with it, man. Ain't nothing wrong with it at all. So um, I I try my best to keep a cool head. I fail miserably enough times, but in general, I try to keep a cool head, and I try to compartmentalize certain things. Like I do understand that there is a certain level of promotion. That's going to involve mean words, as they like to say. I think that was the exact phrase that Dana White used on the podium last night. Was, "Oh, they're going to say mean words." I know Colby has used that exact same term. These aren't mean words. Mean words is calling you a bitch. Mean words is, saying you're punk, saying you can't fight, saying I'm gonna knock you out. Those are mean words.
Facts.
Mean words aren't uh, calling black people who want equality terrorists. That's
Mhm.
called hate speech.
Exactly.
Two different things. Two
Okay.
completely different things. Um, so I don't. especially for the UFC to be so concerned about the market, about having this mainstream acceptance, to have for to be on ESPN. That's such a big deal. To be featured in Sports Illustrated, to have this sort of mainstream acceptance, but being so unwilling to just show basic decency to members of society. It's a complete juxtaposition right there. It doesn't make sense. A total contradiction. Those two realities do not coexist. You do not go for the mainstream. You do not go for widespread acceptance while rolling out the red carpet for very clear hatred and racism. Those two things don't coexist.
No,
There, you know, you expand into all these other markets. You want to expand into these markets. You want remember, global fucking domination was the term that they put up on that big screen so many years ago. Do you really dominate the globe if you don't um show respect to your audience? I, I'm sorry. Does this sound absurd to you at all? Like,
no, not at all. And I
eh,
mean, listen, like I said this with Pat Auger on one of the other videos talking about the press conference of this fight. I was talking about the African American community is still an untapped demographic for the UFC, and this sort of thing right here is not going to help that at all, at all. And like you said, man, like holding back your anger is tough, man. And I'm very much usually a guy that's in great spirits all the time. Like I'm smiling most of this video as I'm saying this, but believe me, I am enraged. I'm just trying like this is how I try to work through it, right?
yeah,
I
that's
kind
the
of smile
scary.
and try to laugh it off.
Those are the scariest ones. When you smile when you're mad, that scares the shit out of me.
I
Um,
mean, listen, the couple of street fights I've been in, I this was my demeanor right before I punched the guy straight in the mouth. So that's just how I operate, man. Just how I operate, and it's really unfortunate, man. Like I said, that we as Black journalists have to face this and essentially be told like, "Hey, accept it or leave it." Like, all right, well, if you don't say anything, I'm going to let you guys know, and I probably will leave it because at the end of the day, I don't depend on the UFC for anything. Um, I cover this sport for fun because I enjoy the competition aspect of it, right? And of course, some of the personalities are great. There's a lot of great fighters with great personalities. There's a lot of great people behind the scenes that I know and I have great relationships with that I know for a fact are not okay with this sort of thing. So you're putting pressure on all of those people to say, this is what I have to work with now. It's not cool.
Not at all. Yeah, just a very basic idea here. Respect your audience. There are people of color in your audience. There are Black people that watch, and surprisingly, those Black people don't want to die unjustly. God forbid. It's
Not
really
asking,
that fucking simple.
not asking much, man. Not
Yeah.
asking for much.